Watch this. Right here, at the top of the screen, the ball is still rising. A half-second later, it's falling straight down like someone cut a string holding it up. That's not physics. That's a camera cable. And FIFA is telling you it never happened. Saturday in Miami, England beat Norway 2-1 in extra time to reach the World Cup semi-finals. Jude Bellingham scored both goals. That much nobody disputes. What happens in the 60 seconds before his first goal is now the biggest fight in this tournament, and it's still going as England walks out against Argentina today in Atlanta. Here's the sequence, and I want you to actually picture it. Norway goalkeeper Ødegaard Nyland clears a goal kick upfield, high and deep, the kind of ball that usually just gets contested and cleared again. Television footage shows it clip an overhead camera wire, the cable that suspends the robotic Spidercam above the pitch, and drop dead out of the sky, straight into the path of England's Elliot Anderson. Anderson finds Anthony Gordon. Gordon squares it. Bellingham drives it low into the far corner to make it 1-1 in first-half stoppage time. Under the actual laws of the game, contact with an outside object like a camera cable should have stopped play on the spot, with a drop ball to restart. The goal should never have counted. Instead, nothing. No whistle, no review, no delay. Nyland pointed at the sky before the ball even hit the net. So did Erling Haaland, standing right there, watching his team's World Cup tilt on a coin flip nobody asked for. Norway coach Ståle Solbakken was filmed going straight at referee Clement Turpin at halftime. And afterward, he said the ball dropped down, in his words, straight from heaven, despite what FIFA's censor claimed. FIFA's answer came fast, and it was blunt. The sensor inside the official match ball recorded no spike in what they call its heartbeat while the ball was in the air, so as far as they're concerned, nothing touched anything. Case closed, according to the people who run this tournament. Except millions of people had already watched the replay with their own eyes, and a flat denial doesn't survive contact with video that clear. Norway midfielder Sander Berge didn't hold back after the final whistle, calling the whole thing ridiculous and pointing out that the scoreline was 1 goal, which tells you everything about how small the margins were and which way they broke. Captain Martin Ødegaard was more measured, but just as pointed, saying he didn't see the incident himself, but that the margins simply weren't in Norway's favor on the calls that mattered. Now here's where this stops being a one-match story and turns into a tournament-wide credibility problem. Because while all of that was happening on one end of the pitch, VAR was busy doing the exact opposite on the other end. 10 minutes into the second half, Norway thought they'd taken the lead when Torbjørn Hegem headed home a corner. VAR pulled it back, ruling that Haaland had fouled Anderson in the build-up. A shove that happens on nearly every corner kick in football at every level. Fair enough on a strict reading of the letter of the law. But put the two decisions side by side and watch what it does to your trust in the system. One incident gets frozen, rewound, and dissected frame by frame until officials find contact that's basically background noise in the sport. The other incident, a ball visibly changing direction in mid-air before a World Cup goal, doesn't get so much as a second look. Same match, same officiating crew. Two completely different standards for what counts as worth reviewing. And here's the detail FIFA cannot explain away, no matter how many statements they put out. This exact sensor system, the connected ball technology inside the Adidas Trionda, was used earlier in this tournament to wipe out a Croatia goal against Portugal in the round of 32. Josko Gvardiol buried what looked like a stoppage-time equalizer, only for VAR to rule his teammate Mario Pasalic offside because the sensor detected contact between the ball and Igor Matanovic's hair in the build-up. Not his foot, not his shoulder. His hair. Croatia was so furious they filed a formal complaint with FIFA President Gianni Infantino, calling it an abuse of technology that violated the spirit of the game. So the question fans keep throwing back at FIFA is simple, and it's a fair one. How does a sensor sensitive enough to catch a few strands of hair detect absolutely nothing when a ball supposedly hits a steel camera cable in midair? One theory circulating among broadcast analysts is that the tracking antennas sit low, closer to the turf, and simply don't reach that high above the pitch, meaning there's a literal blind spot in the sky, exactly where this incident happened. FIFA hasn't addressed that theory directly, and until they do, the silence is doing more damage than any statement could. To be fair, because this story deserves fairness even while it's exploding online, VAR didn't only go against Norway that day. Late in the game, England thought they'd won a penalty when Jed Spence went down under a challenge from Oscar Bob. Turpin pointed to the spot, then got pulled over to the monitor and reversed his own call, taking a massive decision away from England in the closing stages of a knockout match. So this isn't a story about a referee bending everything toward one team all night. It's a story about a tournament where nobody, on either side, can predict when the machine is going to intervene and when it's going to look away. Which is exactly why this keeps snowballing instead of dying down like FIFA clearly hoped it would. This tournament already has Egypt filing a formal complaint over a disallowed goal against Argentina. It already has a mistaken identity red card that caused chaos in the Switzerland game. It already has Croatia's letter to Infantino sitting on file. And FIFA's own response to the mounting backlash was to quietly move VAR officials physically into the stadiums, starting at the quarterfinal stage, while insisting publicly that the actual rules for when VAR steps in haven't changed at all. Even FIFA's fix is proof the criticism landed. Norwegian outlets have run wall-to-wall coverage since the final whistle, with pundits calling it, if the footage is ever formally confirmed, one of the biggest refereeing controversies in the history of the sport. England moves on to face Argentina in Atlanta today, one win away from a first World Cup final since 1966. Norway flies home from the best tournament in their history, left with a what-if that will follow this golden generation for years. And FIFA walks into the biggest match of the tournament so far, having never actually answered the question, hanging over everything it's done this week. If the technology is precise enough to catch a hair, what exactly is it missing when the stakes are highest? So here's the real question for the comments. Do you trust a sensor that FIFA itself controls and releases the data from, or do you trust what an entire stadium watched happen live with their own eyes? Say which one, and say why. I'm reading every comment before kickoff.